Don't stop believing. Oops. Maybe I should have untangled this before we started. Hello.
Are we there?
I think so. I hope so. Are we there yet? Check it out. Kinda looks like it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me? Calling, calling. Testing, testing. Hi.
Perhaps no one's just there because it's Halloween.
Exactly. They're at home with their families as they should be. Not with the nerds on Death live stream. Sounds good, says Boreal. I assume that means the sound is good and everything. Hi everyone. How y'all doing?
Hi kids.
Well, look who we got in the house today, y'all. The man himself. Loftar. So nice of you to be here. How you doing, man?
Yeah. I don't know. As usual.
How's that?
Nothing to say.
Nothing to say. It's a good thing you're on the stream.
Yeah.
Nothing to contribute.
That's what I always tell you, isn't it?
That is exactly. Come here, you gotta smooch in a little closer. This guy. So what's up, everyone? You having a good Halloween? I certainly hope you are. I have no really super clear ambition for what we're doing today, except
Fumbling.
fumbling around as usual, but always fumbling. But since there were requests for it, I've taken the time to make an actual legit Halloween hat with bat wings and skulls and orange and black and everything. So we're gonna add that. Official Ramsey asks for reanimated skeletons. That is a bit of a tall order on a short notice.
Yeah. Isn't it? I mean, I guess it's mostly up to you, but...
Yeah, true, but I think that would be asking for a lot, making that actually work.
That being said, perhaps we could add a blood moon or something.
A blood moon. That would be cool. See, it's kind of annoying that this thing is in the way of my layer selection. I'll move the chat down for a little bit. No one was saying anything important anyway, am I right? Am I right?
So that's so, except someone who was asking what programs you were using for 3D modeling and drawing.
Exactly.
Which
did I get that question?
It's been
What program?
answered several times, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's a classic question. This right here is Blender, version something.
Not updated in 2 years or so?
No, that's not true. That's not even true. This would date 2017-02-24, so it's like barely...
Roughly 2 years, as I said.
Roughly 2 years. Time moves fast when you're having fun.
That's so.
So that's what we're using here and here. We're using a real blast from the past.
Speaking of blasts from the past.
This is from portions covered 2004. It's the last copyright notice on this. Okay. So yeah, I started using this back when we were starting out with this, and never really found
Started using it long before then.
Yeah, it was my graphics program of choice when we started working on Haven. So I've never felt the need to shift over to something more. Actually, I tried using Photoshop, but I found Photoshop to be bloatware. So
yeah, exactly.
I
I
think
do
that's
wonder though. Did you ever
Not
retry GIMP after they added the one window mode?
I have done that, yes, and I like GIMP better. So
I think they've added both the one window mode and the hierarchical layers, both of which you
yes,
wanted in the past from it.
yeah, I know, I've noticed. So maybe it's GIMP time. Maybe I should switch over to GIMP.
But then again, all the source files are already in PSP format. Am I right?
There aren't that many source files to speak of, but
True enough.
But yeah. Let's see now. What were we doing? We were making the icon for this hat. So I suppose the question was asked here by official Ramsey as well.
When will snow stop melting, right? Yeah, it stopped melting, right? Sure. I thought we had forgotten to turn it on again, rather.
No. He's asking when winter is coming.
Yeah.
We don't know.
The
Whoops. That's a bit too many holes in that one. I see Jorb sent it 1669. I see Jorb is dressed as an artist and Loftar is dressed as a fast and efficient coder. Great Halloween costumes guy. Give me the note. Put this on. I shall put this on for you. This is spooky enough for you. Put it on for you. It's only tied on with like an actual knot here in the back, as you can see. So.
I mean, all that being said,
could you do this for me?
No, oh sure. I'm sure this will be very convenient to.
Yeah, exactly.
To
I want a nice little ribbon.
Oh, of course, you will have a little ribbon.
Exactly.
How else will I tie it? There you go.
Thank you. Thank you. Is that better? Hope you like that better. This is my Halloween costume.
I mean, that being said,
I'm gonna wear this for a significant portion of the day.
I have to say that I myself have no real personal relationship with, Halloween. There we go.
Organized. Go on. Talk more about your intimate relationship with Halloween.
No, I was just saying that I have no real personal relation to Halloween at all. I mean, when we were kids, Halloween wasn't a thing over here at all.
You kids and your darn motorcycle.
No, just saying though that it's only relatively recently that Halloween has been important here.
Yeah.
To begin with.
Exactly. I actually read that like some commercial association took some sort of like decision and principle that they were going to start pushing this back in like I don't know 98 maybe.
Sounds about right to me. I know that my kid sister, who's 7 years younger than me, is more Halloweenish.
Right on. She likes it more than you.
Well, I mean, I don't know just how much of a Halloween fan she is, but it's a more natural thing to her at least.
Right.
I think she was doing the Halloween stuff when she was a kid.
Right. As she is a few years younger than you.
Yeah.
I don't do Halloween at all actually. Like just the other night, the kids came by her, asking me for bribes and candy.
Which is a bit strange though, since Halloween is tonight.
Yeah, but there have been like 2 nights this week where we've had rings at the door from strange kids, and I'm like, I don't want to give you candy. It's like with the
get off my lawn.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like someone near and dear to me suggested that just
perhaps you should turn the hat a bit more in that angle so that.
Good idea, sir. Let's do that. Let's just tilt it a little bit more. Suggested that why don't you just give them some crackers or some chips, or then they'll go away. And I'm like, that's how the English tried reasoning with the Vikings. How did that work out for them?
Yeah, exactly.
Not particularly well.
I mean, it's a bit particularly strange, I think, because the whole trick-or-treat thing has always been an Easter thing here, and now they're kind of artificially moving it to Halloween, which feels strange, I think.
It's shit, basically. America, go home! Okay, we love you, but
but it's a bit strange. I mean, it feels very foreign to me.
Yeah, I can only agree. I don't really. I have no particular relationship to it. I also don't want to be the Grinch, but it's like a bit.
Yeah, I don't want to be a party pooper.
Yeah, exactly.
All, but.
Official Ramsey says America #1.
Well, that's an undeniable fact, isn't it?
Exactly. That is a true statement. We're gonna turn the chat down there for a little while, just for a little while I make an outline for that. Yeah, America #1. Huh? That is a true statement, indeed. So the question was asked, and I guess all the kids want to know, Loftar, how's the client rendering rewrite coming?
No, it was asked. Well, since the last update post that I made on the forums.
When was that?
About a month ago.
No, 1 month ago, yeah. Check.
I have gotten click testing working.
Click testing is working.
I think that's what I wrote back then. I've also gotten sprite animation to work, and just as late as yesterday, I finally got player. What do you call it? The drawing of player sprites working, which has felt like a pretty big milestone to me. That makes it feel a bit like I can see the light at the end of the tunnel a bit, but so of course I'm not there yet.
So what are the main obstacles?
I mean
standing in your way.
It's a bit of a categorization thing, I guess, but I see what I see before me are three main bullet points, so to speak. One being to basically just convert all the custom graphics of every little thing here and there.
Give some examples of some custom graphics.
Well, I mean, like the floating numbers for when you get LP, like the specialized lighting for things that glow.
Right on. Opium effect.
Yeah, opium effects, things like that. The other major thing I see on the bullet point which is arguably also just a case of converting graphics, is re-implementing shadow rendering.
Right on.
And also finally re-implementing instantiation, or whatever you would call the noun form of it. Instantification.
Instancing.
Instancing, right. True.
Is the
True
term
enough.
you're looking for.
Instancing is the term I'm looking for. And right now I think my order of viewing things will be to first convert all the graphics, and then do instancing.
Right on.
So that I have graphics to test instancing with.
Right on.
And then save shadows for last, because I want to try to integrate that with instancing in a particular way, so that it would be nice to have instancing first.
Tell me more.
It's kind of internal. It's a bit difficult to describe without describing the whole architecture. But basically I want to try to put the shadow rendering list after the instancing operator, so that shadow rendering and normal rendering can share the same instancing data, rather than having to each have their own instancing data redundantly.
Right on. So the follow-up question that naturally presents itself is from Zunzon: how much time will it take? And from Official Ramsey: do you think it will be done by the end of the year?
Well, I mean, ask Jorb how my time estimations work out in the end. So I'm not sure how meaningful it will be for me to estimate something. But like I said, I would very much like to believe that it will be in a testable form before the end of the year.
That's good. When I asked you last year about like a December release for the rewritten client,
yeah, exactly.
How did you feel about that last year?
Yeah, similarly.
Similarly, yeah. No joke, I've been asking him for the whole year, and like...
I mean, I would kind of like to apologize for it taking so long, because it does suck really much. It does prevent us from getting other useful things done very much.
It has been cock blocking the shit out of us this year, hasn't it?
It really has.
And I would describe that as a bit of a collective failure on our part, like a failure on your part to give me a correct time estimate, and a failure on my part to realize that you're never going to give me a correct time estimate. So I'd say, we have about an equal share in the blame here. Is my take on it, but it is what it is. I mean, nothing that we say or do can make it go any faster, really, I suppose.
More or less.
Or are there things? Can I threaten you physically with punishment and make it go faster? No?
Somewhat doubtful, I'd say.
So cracking the whip is no use. So if anyone out there has a magic spell that makes Codegnomes code faster, then by all means.
I mean, all that being said, it has taken much longer than I would have liked it to do, for sure.
Sure. Why did it take a lot longer than you thought it would have done?
No, I guess I just suck.
No, but seriously, like, do a post-mortem on it. Like, why was it so much bigger than you thought it would?
I don't know. I'll do a post-mortem when this post-mortem.
Yeah. Don't want to talk about it. It's like a nasty family affair that he doesn't want to discuss. Don't speak yet.
More or less.
His old, do not ask questions about his old Uncle Andy or
More or less.
something to that effect. But you're working away at it, right?
Yeah.
And
in particular, it is getting more fun now that I'm getting visual feedback from it more constantly.
Right on.
Certainly.
Another good question then, I suppose, is will it be worth it in the end? I mean, because Shubla wrote a thing on the forums where he was like, you know, FPS per day's worked on the project is going to be really shitty, and FPS gain per day's worked on the project is going to be really terrible. And I suspect that's probably true because, like,
yeah, certainly. I mean, it is, but I mean, it is also true that it would have needed to be done sooner or later under any circumstances.
right.
And in particular, also, I would like to believe that you know, it's something we will have use for in the future, so to speak. It is I believe it is an architecture that we can build upon.
Well,
Even for, I mean, we've since many years back, obviously, we have been talking about such long-term projects as increasing the rendering distance or whatever, and this would certainly be necessary for that to work out properly, and other such things. So I mean, as I said, it needed to be done either way, I think.
Yeah. So basically, we've been building for the future here.
If nothing else.
The way of the future. No, the way of the future. That is from The Aviator. Last time I quoted that on stream, someone was kind enough to find the movie that was actually...
The what?
The Aviator. Leonardo DiCaprio plays Howard Hughes. You know, the demented American movie maker, millionaire who built airplanes during, like, World War and...
I've heard that, mate.
You never heard of Howard Hughes? You will need to Wikipedia Howard Hughes.
I see.
He's a pretty big deal. Like, he's got, like, tie-ins to, you know, American Black Ops. You know, to all kinds of. He did all kinds of crazy boondoggle projects for the government during the war, and it was. And he went mad, like saving his own urine in jars and stuff at the end.
Immersion to death.
Yeah, pretty much a merchant of death, but like also he ran a big airline and made movies and
yeah, like all merchants of death, there, isn't that right?
Exactly. Al Gerlach knows his stuff. The Spruce Goose. He was building a huge airplane, like for you know, flying troops over to Europe, because that's where they need to be, obviously. I mean, how else are we going to make the world safe for democracy?
Yeah, surely.
And they built it from spruce, like a wooden plane.
Okay. Really?
So that it would be lighter, so that they could, like, load it up with more shit.
But it would only go one way, or what?
No, no. I think it was intended for continuous use.
Well, I mean, that kind of raises the question: why not every plane is built out of wood if it's so much lighter?
Well, apparently it didn't work out perfectly.
I see.
May have been some issues with the plane. I don't think they ever really finished the project. I think he like a part of the movie is him standing trial after the war, when they have like some kind of inquiry or commission that, you know, investigates all the boondoggles from the war, like all the failed government projects that, you know, got a bunch of grant money but never delivered.
Such as the Spruce Goose.
Such as the Spruce Goose.
I see. Right. Can see that there might be a point to hold such an inquiry.
Yes. Yeah, and yeah. Also,
I mean, surely no one would do this maliciously.
No, I couldn't imagine anyone being that. Anyone being that.
That unpatriotic.
Whoa!
that's a fail.
Yes. Probably because I didn't set that equipment point properly. I did not. I'm an idiot. It says
As usual.
say age right there. Here I am pointing at the screen so that they can see that.
Well, they can see you pointing.
That is true. Needs to be an age right there. An age. Jorb, the mask with your hat is not nice combination. I mean, should I take the hat or the mask off? Oh no. I'll take the hat off.
But now you must surely be cold. I mean, it's almost November.
It is. That's pretty true, bro. Getting pretty chilly. So everyone, take this opportunity. There have been a lot of requests for Loftar, so please take this opportunity to ask him questions. He's right here now. Anything you want to know about the, coding, secret stuff about the game, concerning the game, feel free to ask him. Like, he's here. He's queer. He's kidding. Kidding. It's a joke, obviously. Paper Bullets FN says, "How's the coding going?" I believe you expounded a little bit on that.
Yeah, I did. I think I did.
No.
I'm sure that I have that much more to say about it.
Loftar, why do we only get a hat and a critter each week?
Because I suck in completing the client. That's the.
I think we've been over that one.
Yeah.
We covered that one in some detail.
Indeed.
Zented69 says, "Buddha boy, we just wanted to look at it." I can't say I blame you there, Zented. Cannot say I blame you. Oops. Yeah. So the bees. Let's look over the recent patches.
Ah, yes, freak show was the term I was looking for. Yes.
For what?
The reason I'm here, right?
No. Of course not. Poor baby. See, that's that one from me. That's that one probably. I think those are probably them. The ones that we've made in October. That was from 30th, 26th, 11th, 19th, and 1st. So yeah, we did. This is the most recent one. We added wild bees. We added a scholar credo. We added dill, spices, and a cave moth, and some stuff. We added some more stuff and a conch chair. Conch. Do you prefer conch or conch?
Didn't we?
I think we established last time
that conch was the correct word.
I think we established that if anything, conch was the correct one. But I think honestly, I think what we established was that either was fine. I think both are acceptable.
Ah, right, but that was primarily the Valhalla patch.
Exactly. So, I mean,
you got tired of it?
no, it's
Can't
falling down constantly.
Can't imagine why.
I cannot for the life of me fathom, like, how do you walk around like a 17th century ball with this on all night without going bonkers? But yeah,
getting a bit sweaty behind there, huh?
Yeah, we are indeed. But yeah, we updated Valhalla a little bit. So if anyone has further suggestions on more stuff that we can do with Valhalla, then feel free to make suggestions. And if anyone has like some little belated fixes that you'd like to see added to the game, I'm gonna make a restart. We're gonna do a restart of the server sometime later tonight to add this hat, if nothing else. So here's your chance. Feel free to make suggestions.
Speaking of which, I was going to ask actually what the reason is why people. I've never understood why people are using dual gates for every palisade.
So here's a question for you. Why are you using dual gates for all the palisades?
What problems does that avoid, actually?
Exactly.
I've never gotten that.
What problem does that solve? That is one thing we'd like to know. Please answer in chat. Boom, there we go. That's a pretty Halloweeny hat, right?
Isn't it?
Ass too fat. Drunken Jacob says, suggestion, free Felix.
Oh, Felix is the exploiter.
Indeed. That was a fun thing.
Yeah, that was a fun thing,
That
wasn't
was
it?
a fun event.
I sure don't understand why ever we should free him. That seems completely absurd.
little fucker cost us like 3 hours of a good night.
Yeah.
I think
For no obvious excuse.
for no reason or excuse. He just went up and did it, the absolute madman. Okay, so Asterix answers our question here. It solves a number of issues. One big one being preventing animals from being lured into your base.
How does it prevent that, though? I mean, why wouldn't they be able to run through a pair of gates instead of one gate?
Because the internal gates are closed, right? And you can
Not that I see. Well, I mean, if you're keeping the gates closed, why couldn't you just keep the external gates closed instead?
Because those have locks on them. The internal gates probably don't.
Okay. So what, though? I mean, people without permissions can't open them anyway, and people with permissions presumably have keys. Or is that the reason, perhaps, that simply that it allows you to just set gate permissions?
Exactly what Jorb said. So I was right.
That is.
That is what I just said. That is to say, the internal gates do not have keys. And then you set permissions.
So the reason for having dual gates is simply to be able to set gate permissions without using keys.
When you say gates, one of the reasons is to prevent animals from getting inside. Animals do not.
Yeah, but why do the inner gates prevent animals from getting in while the outer gates don't?
Because you still want to allow visitors.
But visitors can't get in anyway. They need trespass permissions to open the inner gates.
Presumably they have that.
Do they? Do you really put trespass permissions on the white group?
Why wouldn't you?
I don't know.
Okay. So how about the permissions then? Do they have the trespass permissions? How does that work? Feel free to inform us. Trollic says yes. And a P claim can be made for the inner gates. Yeah, yep. So they have permissions, yeah, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not white. You give it to people you want to have access. Oh, right.
Yeah, so that's what I said.
Exactly, that's what you said, yes. People you allow. So basically, you can use it to...
So basically it's a way to just not use keys.
Is it just a way to not use keys? Would you say that, people? Is that a correct summation? Answering the immediate yes, says Dacker. Yes, so there you have your answer then.
I see. Well, that sure is an unintended consequence. That's something we have to fix, isn't it?
Bug! It's a bug! We need to nerf now! Nerf, please! No, I'm kidding. We're not going to nerf that.
Of course we wouldn't.
Do something like that. Princess Mandy 91 says, can you make some nice girls' hats and
Clothes?
Probably not. I suck at doing girly things because I'm not particularly good at drawing. So, Zented69 says the main reason for double gates is because it's easier to control than permissions in a big group. Half the gates are backwards and half are normal, so you can leave and enter without keys.
So it's a way to not use keys.
Pretty much. Please let us have, says Artemis WHB, multiple hands per barter stand slot so we can bulk trade through stands.
Yeah, I have seen that being a common request for sure. My thought on that is to what extent do we want to automate trade? I mean, should every interaction in the game be automated and not deal with other players?
Pretty much, right?
Just wondering.
I'm not saying the answer is yes, but yes. I mean, I've enjoyed the bountiful and plentiful services of the community fair. So that was,
Yeah, certainly. I can't deny that. Just wondering though.
Drunken Jacob asks, will we have more types of clothes to match our hats next world? New colors, etc. Yeah, I mean, I'm adding clothes on a somewhat semi-consistent basis every now and then. Actually added a whole new cloth type which has 0 uses still.
Yeah, what was that? Oh, really?
The gold
Indeed.
cloth thing. I added, which has no uses. For a quick little fix before you restart tonight, can you reset the server? Thoughts on that? Just asking for a minor world reset, just a small one. Nothing major.
Shouldn't be a big deal, should it?
That's what I'm thinking. No. Cannot. Official Ramsey says, will there ever be hoods like the Druid's hood? Since you gave an example, I suppose there already is, right?
Yeah. Sounds like it.
Sounds like there already is precisely such a hood. But would you like to see more? I shall interpret your comment as you'd like to see more. Why not? I added the parka a while back, the reindeer skin parka thing.
Or more clothes from just more specialized resources. A motivated thing to add.
Well, develop your thinking, sir. What are you thinking? Like, why wouldn't it be? Like, why?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I was just thinking that. I don't know. I mean, it should be, but it never feels like an impediment.
An impediment to what?
To having any kind of clothes you like anyway.
Right.
I don't know what I was thinking.
I don't know, I think there are a couple of issues with clothes. I think like one of the issues is that the artifice system still kind of treats
arguably that's the biggest issue with clothes.
Expensive clothes very unfairly compared to easily spammable simple clothes. And I think that's a bit unfortunate. That's one thing.
Certainly true.
And there's and then there's obviously also the question of
the Druid's hood isn't available to normal players, isn't it? Yes, it is.
Sure it is. Why wouldn't it be? Of course it is.
Pretty sure it is.
I'm pretty sure it is too. But no, then there's the issue obviously of
artifice.
No, I was more thinking with dyes and stuff, which is one of the most frequent requests on the clothes front that we've received since we started making the old first version of Haven.
Indeed.
And dyes for clothing would be a cool thing, obviously, but I'm just generally not entirely sure how that interacts with I think, for example, a nice thing that we can do now is that we can give for example variable materials of a specific color and tie that to some specific resource, which I think is a nice thing. Like it makes it easier to give new cloth a generic and somewhat mildly fun use. And if we introduced dyeing, arbitrarily, then that wouldn't really be the case anymore. So that's one of the things that I'm not really sure how to feel about. I'm not saying we shouldn't do dyes. I'm just asking how should we do them, and is there any way we can keep the nice aspect of the present system in a new regime where there are dyes. And also on the subject of clothes in general, it's kind of the same thing that with prefab buildings. The buildings that are available to players now are all prefabs made by me. And I feel that it's very hard for me to exhaust or even begin scratching at the possibility space of all the types of buildings that you could add by just adding more prefabs. It feels very retarded. And I feel similarly about clothing in a way, because it feels like every piece of clothing I add, and I'm not saying that everything should just be like this arbitrary Lego build your own clothing stuff. You know, I think there's definitely room for specialized things, but I also think that some sort of system, I could envision a system where you can, like, from primitive parts, construct your own pieces of clothing and give them, you know, arbitrary dyes and stuff. Just build your own, you know, basically build your own paper cutout doll for the texture, basically.
To some extent, I guess.
And for, you know, for the texture for the character, I could easily see some sort of system for that. And I think that could be, that's one of, like, because one of the things that I've been thinking about as a long-term project would be to try to iterate on the character, like do a new character model, because there are several problems with the existing character models. Like, they could be, number one, they could be better as such, like they could be more aesthetically pleasing, they could have better textures, they could have, you know, support for more arbitrary, you know, variation of looks and stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's been a long while since I made them. We're coming up on like 3 or 4 years now, and you know, I've obviously learned things, and like some of the unwraps for the meshes are not good, and you know, there are things that I'd like to change about it. But were I to do that, since that would be that's like the most expensive asset in the game, like if we were to actually try to tackle that, then you know, it's a big deal, and I would want to make that right, do it right in that case, and really, you know, have a good plan for all the things I'd like to change about it. And, you know, in that vein, I suppose dyes come in. H&H Granger says, let dyes apply a tint filter and be done with it.
But that would obviously suck. That would eliminate highlights and everything too, and affect details that shouldn't be affected by dyes and whatnot. That just seems like a cheap solution that wouldn't really be good.
Not saying that I don't know. I'm not like excluding apodictically that you couldn't use dye or use tints somehow.
Yeah, somehow, surely.
I mean, but one point there is that you'd need to, like, you know, split the clothing texture up into layers and stuff and treat them separately. Like you could have a highlight layer and blah 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 blah. You'd have to do things like that. So you couldn't just slap a highlight or slap a tint on it and hope for good results. That is going to look like shit. That I agree with. So, implying it looking like shit changes anything from how it looks now.
There is that, of course, but that doesn't mean we have to make it worse.
Yeah, that's true. Implying you can make it worse. It is already worse.
Oh, I can assure you we could make it worse. I mean, just look at the custom clients. They already do that.
That's true. Swedgy says, if we miss any questions, we're bound to. We have long rants here. Please feel free to ask again. Mm-hmm. Have you thought players being able to bond with horses, buffs to the horse you've bonded with?
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to do something like that.
Word up.
I'm just not sure. I just haven't been able to think of a good mechanic for it, but I definitely like to. I'm not sure exactly what it is that I want, but I would like riding to be less trivial. You know, like a newly spawned character just jumping up on any wild horse and then riding a horse back into the sunset. It stretches the imagination a bit. Then again, I know that when we made the remake, the 3D remake of Haven to begin with, adding horses was an early thing that we just considered fun. So to some extent, it would also suck a bit to remove that fun, perhaps. But
yeah, and the wild horses being, you know, rideable with clover and stuff, all of that was very much intentionally added so that, you know, noobs could very early on get a taste of riding.
Yeah, just have fun with it.
Because it's just fun. So, and I wouldn't want to lose that. And but I think there's a case to be made that you could like a horse that you've bonded with for several moons should.
I mean, there are several things that could, at least I guess, serve as seeds for ideas. Not that they are developed, but you know, they could, for instance, be less easily frightened in combat. It could even affect rawhide.
Yeah. I think the consensus is that horses in combat are cancer and only cancer, I think. I think no one wants to see them in combat at all, right?
Wants to see them or wants to use them currently.
I don't know.
But
like, I agree. I don't know. I'm not like entirely opposed to horses playing some role in combat. Like, it would be cool to have lances and stuff.
mm-hmm. I mean, for that matter, it could also be an issue of, like a horse you're bonded with would not react well to strangers, and so would be more difficult to steal. I'm not sure if that matters, but
yeah, it's an idea. So we're coming up on a bee's nest here. 50 unarmed combat should do it, right? Like, that's enough, right?
Surely.
I ain't touching that. Are they aggressive at all?
No, well, I mean, when you raid the hives, obviously they attack you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they don't attack you without you raiding them.
No, they don't. But I mean, that particular nest had no patrols at all to begin with, so there wouldn't be any.
No, sure, but like I'm just saying that when they do have patrols.
Yeah, sure. No, they aren't currently aggressive.
I think the patrols should be aggressive.
I was thinking that these are kind of semi-nice insects.
In real life they are, but this is Haven.
True enough. There may be a case to be made that they're dangerous enough as it is when you're raiding the hives also, perhaps.
How many
sure.
mistletoes were growing on that tree? Poor little tree was strangled to death. Byron de Morris says, rework the siege system back like in 8 World because this is too boring. I don't really remember.
I mean, that's a good question, actually. If someone remembers, you can actually answer this question, because I do remember back in World 8, we had battering rams working like they did in Legacy, but yet in World 8 that meant people were building multiple layers of walls, multiple wall layers. Whereas in Legacy it did not.
Did they?
Yes, that was an early problem.
Right.
That's why we changed them. But
Are you sure? Did they?
Yes, they very much did. But I don't at all remember why that would have been a difference versus Legacy.
Right. Because I think it's safe to say that we're certainly considering going back to something more akin to that, because shields are retarded.
Yeah, shields really are retarded.
So no one likes those. Then again, I don't think I'm also not sure. Like, I don't think it's like a true statement that we just want to make sieging easier either. I kind of like that bases are pretty safe.
Yeah, but there's surely also a case to be made that they are too safe.
Oh, sure. I think there's a good case to be made that there's too little differentiation.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the real problem, isn't it?
A freshly established shitty palisade is going to be as well defended as a brick wall, settlement, active since day one. And I think that is a problem.
That's really the main problem. Yeah. But that must have been a problem with Legacy too, I imagine.
Probably, but I'm not sure if weren't.
The Russian wipe, please. Are you asking us to remove Russians?
Not very nice. What have the Russians ever done to you? Ruby Red Chaos says, revert back and make walls get stronger as they keep aging. I fail to see how that could possibly blow up in our face.
I don't think that seems like a right thing either. I mean, that means that some random little noob camp that's been up from day one is the strongest base of all, just because it's been there longest, and that doesn't seem right. I mean, it should somehow reflect the effort of playing, of the efforts of the player inside it, I think.
Yeah.
But it is a good question how.
That is also because it's because we want a metric here to kind of determine the activity level of a player, like how real is a base. But that's very hard to determine because every rule that we add just becomes like a game condition that you can start playing in and of itself.
And certainly will do so if it matters, if it affects how strongly your base will resist sieging.
And you're just going to start metagaming around the rules that we added as like heuristic measures of your activity level. So you're going to start playing very hard, play hardball with those, and that will lead to retarded results. Say for example that like we take a measure of like logged in players or something like that. Okay, so suddenly you have incentives to spawn 10,000 alts to boost your...
I mean, that being said, I don't necessarily think in the right mindset is to measure player activity. I think it should be a more, if it should be anything, I think it should be a more explicit mechanic of being able to put effort into a base in order to make it stronger.
Like an explicit mechanic where you like upgrade walls or something?
Yeah, something to that extent, perhaps not sure exactly what. I mean, it could be something related to the claim as well, though that obviously runs the risk of devolving into your shields, but something to that effect. I mean, consider, for instance, if just consider if the amount of authority put into the village made it stronger, that would surely be better than nothing.
Sure.
It would. It would of course. It would of course incentivize keeping study halls in a village, but that's just a way to consume curiosity. So I'm not even sure I mind that.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's also a thing. Like, I'm not sure how much I mind bots at all. Like, they're just NPCs in some sense. Like, I mean, what feudal medieval city doesn't have its fair share?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. To some extent, I agree that there are botting in and of itself isn't the worst thing that can happen.
No.
It very much depends on how you use it, and I agree to some extent that if you create your own NPCs, and that's not necessarily a horrible thing.
Right? Especially like if we actually gave them life and stuff, gave them meaningful dialogue trees and all kinds of stuff that one could do with NPCs.
You mean that's something we should do? I thought we were talking about bots.
No, I'm just meaning like I'm just saying like we could make it an explicit mechanic that players can like place NPC characters in their villages and stuff.
Yeah, perhaps. I think I'd be more careful about that though. I am somewhat doubtful about the game botting itself, at least.
The game should play itself.
Yeah,
that's the ultimate goal. Automate everything. Have the game play itself.
Progress quest.
Yes, exactly. Progress quest. Meltzier says, "How do you feel about creating an actual druid credo?" I feel positively about creating an actual druid credo. It has been on my list for some time. I even have a whole series of
effects.
No, a whole series of credos actually planned out.
I see.
Related to druidism and things druidic. Yeah, exactly. In Legacy, you could hand bash palisades. That was a thing. Was that a thing in World 8?
I don't think that was a thing in World 8, but I think the villages that had multiple wall layers were those that had brick walls anyway, so I'm not sure how that would matter.
Can anyone confirm this? Did you build multiple brick layers in World 8? Was that a thing? Why was that a thing? Why was that not a thing in Legacy? Because I seem to remember that not being a thing in Legacy. Legacy best game.
Can we ban people who ask for wipes?
Absolutely, I think we can. Okay. No, I clicked someone's name. Explode on me. No, we're not. I'm not going to do that, but because I'm a nice and kind and benevolent developer. But we're not going to wipe anytime soon. So I wouldn't worry too much about that if I were you. I just keep chugging along, playing happily. And apart from that, we have not really any further comments on it because it's not a fun subject to discuss. You're crazy, y'all. You're just, gonna send all the good people of the Heartlands, into the eternal fire to be consumed.
Yeah, I mean, surely everyone knows this. Even if we were doing a wipe in 2 weeks' time, it's not like we'd be able to say anything about it anyway.
Exactly. So it's going to happen when you least expect it. No one expects the Spanish.
What's that?
That is
Yes, it's indeed.
Kenpachi, yes, hello, says, you'd make multiple walls in Legacy due to tile distance and RAM only being able to move a certain amount of tiles.
But you didn't make multiple walls in Legacy.
And then build another wall just to how to reach to give your capital an extra hour, 8 hours of protection.
But you didn't make multiple walls in Legacy. That's exactly the point.
Is a claim that we make, but we're not sure if that's actually true. Like,
well, I mean, I know that that there were inner walls in towns, but I for sure never saw a single village or encampment or anything that had multiple outer wall layers in Legacy.
It's my experience as well, but
I've never seen such a thing in Legacy.
Literally every village had plots. They had internal.
Yeah, they did have internal walls, and I don't mind that, mind you.
But what is really, my village in Legacy had 3 layers, says Kenpachi, yes, hello. Algirlith said we made lots of walls. So they're counter-signaling us pretty hard on this.
I'd like to think that I've been around a little bit, though. And I've never seen that in Legacy.
Paper Bullets FN says, I posted a thread a few years
Unless you
ago
mean inner walls.
that got pretty good response. I suggested size relative to quality when it comes to animals.
Size relative to quality?
I think he wants animals scaled up based on...
Oh, I see. I don't think we would want to institute a paradigm where you can just spot the quality of an animal before killing it.
Quality is effectively sent to the client to determine the scale.
Yeah, exactly.
Of the animal. Sounds great.
I mean, that being said, I wouldn't necessarily mind perhaps indicating general ranges of quality.
Yeah, no, I mean the problem there being that presently Blender fucks up the scaling of the skeletons and animations and shit.
Yeah, that is true, but I do believe I could compensate for that in the client.
If you could, then I'm all up for the idea. I don't mind that at all. It's a bit of like if you could add arbitrary scaling of animals in the client, I think that would be a good thing.
But I mean, that being said, though, I mean, surely this should not be a matter of linearly scaling the animals with their quality, at least.
Certainly it should. Naturally it should. Quality 400 animal is 4 times larger than a quality 100 animal.
Well, I mean, if anything, I do think that if we do have animal scaling, surely they should scale, if anything, with their combat values, and just how that is then related to quality is perhaps a a separate matter.
Arguably. Generally, we're not against your idea, but we're not all for it either. We will.
I mean, certainly, I would not want to telegraph the exact quality just directly to the client.
No,
So that would suck.
no, I don't think anyone is really suggesting that.
As long as we're clear on that.
Is it just me, or is the like decay ratio of these logs a bit high? Like I had every tree chopped down here, but like 90% of them have turned into logs. It's just from decay hits, right?
Yeah, perhaps there may be a case to be made. I could see myself agreeing with that.
People made multiple walls in Legacy and tricky cliff vault spots just to slow down rounds.
Yeah, I do know about that. I can't help but have the feeling that was shut down somehow, though. I wonder if I didn't shut that down manually by simply nuking walls that look like that.
Brave of you, but no, I think we added splash damage from collapsing walls, which I think at least changed the dynamic.
Yeah, but I do think, good question perhaps, I do think that was after we added splash damage, though.
Look, a snake is chasing a squirrel and killed it.
Should of course have eaten it, though.
That is true. Hey, look, something recently decayed here.
Oh, indeed. Isn't there?
How fitting for Halloween that I found
Indeed.
Pumpkin.
Isn't there a claim here?
Nope.
Oh, I see.
Apparently not. Apparently not. Quality 12. No use to me. Can Loftar say something on Russian?
No, I can't.
In Russian.
I
Say
can't.
like Spasiba. Na zdоровье.
Don't know Russian at all. It would be fun to know a bit of Russian, but that can be said for so many languages.
Yep. Russian is especially cool though.
It is, but I think I prefer learning French and Latin before that. Yeah, I know. It's fine.
Arguably, you'd have more concrete use of Russian when working on Haven than French.
Arguably, there's a case to be made. I
don't know. Like,
I'll admit that.
The entirety of the francophone internet seems to be like a walled-off enclosure. Like I rarely see French people on the internet apart from in their own little spheres.
And to some extent, except for Haven, that seems to be true for the Russian sphere as well.
Yeah, sure. But like no, in MMOs, like
sure.
Russians are
sure.
common.
You're right. You're right.
There are Russian factions.
You're right.
And shit.
I mean, I don't really have that much experience with other MMOs, but it is kind of difficult to find francophone people in other MMOs too. With
exactly. My point exactly.
Which is a bit weird. Do they have their own servers or something?
I have no idea. I think it's just that they refuse to speak English, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, sure, but do they just avoid all MMOs ever? Just for that reason?
I don't know.
I mean, not that I wouldn't understand wanting to avoid English so badly that you'd avoid playing any MMO.
It's perfectly understandable.
But it seems a bit extreme.
Adder1342 says, make overhunting decrease the quality of the types of hunted animals in that area.
Yeah.
Because quality notes for animals are a topic in and of itself. Like, I don't really like now, for example, that people can just camp the good mammoth spots and basically corner the mammoth market. I think that someone pointed out a while ago that was retarded.
Yeah, I know, and it is a bit retarded, isn't it? But it's a good question what you'd actually do about it, isn't it? I mean, it's also fun to have a static.
Yeah, I know. I've really felt that way too. That I've been really like. I've been marking qualities of like exceptional qualities of animals that I've caught. I've been marking on my map, and I've enjoyed that because it means that
it's fun to go back and see if.
Yeah, exactly. When I'm in an area where I know the quality is decent, it's always a fun thing to hunt, especially.
I mean, perhaps there's a case to be made precisely for overhunting.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. If they kill every mammoth ever, like, shouldn't at some point the quality start decreasing? That's a good point. Make a little note of that.
I mean, Daisy World Simulation has been a topic pretty much from day one of Haven.
Absolutely. And
there is certainly a case to be made for finally doing something of that. Not sure exactly what kind of mechanics I want for it, but there's certainly a case to be made.
I made a note of it. We'll consider that one.
Is it really the quality that should be reduced, though? Isn't it the commonality?
You mean how common? Yeah, maybe, sure. Like, maybe, arguably, something should be reduced. The spawn.
I mean, that also ties into another somewhat interesting question, because I guess I'm not exactly sure what to think about this, but it's a bit retarded that you can find most animals mostly everywhere.
You could say the same things for herbs. I don't know how true it is even. Like, but
yeah, indeed. I mean, we have added more and more stuff that is local to certain terrains, but nevertheless, I mean, you certainly recognize the common animals that are everywhere, and perhaps that's the fault with them.
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, I think that is kind of as it should be. Like, I mean, some animals are like everywhere, and I mean,
but in the context of the animals that should be everywhere, then I mean, should they literally be uniformly everywhere?
No, I think we could definitely do more differentiation. I don't think that is a bad idea at all. Zented69 says, go back to legacy mechanics with animal quality going up farther away from development. Yeah.
But didn't everyone dislike that? Isn't the only reason that worked in the end because I stopped updating the civilization map?
Yeah, maybe.
I'm pretty sure everyone agreed that it sucked that you couldn't actually settle because that made the qualities of animals go down in the area. And you had to chase noobs away so that they didn't
so that no one else settles in your area and ruins the hunting.
I mean, that being said, I do miss the idea of some areas being less civilized and more dangerous than others, and that should of course probably at least correspond to some increase in quality. But the problem on the other hand is that if you have such areas, then of course people will just settle there instead because that's where the highest quality exists, and then they don't feel foreign or dangerous anymore, uncivilized.
Yeah. It's also, that's why it says Blood Phoenix 08. That's why Next World make the map generator make the world into massive zones like deserts, Arctics and forests. So we'd have to travel to certain parts of the world to get things.
Well, I mean, the idea is that the current terrain distribution is supposed to be something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're trying to do, but like,
I'm not sure exactly why. If there is, I don't think I'd like to see deserts in Haven.
No, me neither. There are no deserts in Europe. Europe is a lush, beautiful.
I mean, that being said, though, there is perhaps some kind of case to be made that there's somehow not enough differentiation between the kinds of terrain that we have.
Oh, possibly, like the vast majority of them are forests or grasslands.
No, but I don't. There is perhaps some such case to be made as well, but. I mean, the thing is, you don't really have a reason to care whether you're in Timberland or in Lycanwald.
Well, I mean, isn't that just because the spawns are not
arguably
enough? I mean, and the thing is, like, how would we make them like so super important? Because,
well, I mean,
one of the problems with making them very important and very localized is that a lot of people won't have access to them. I mean, a lot of the times when we add mechanics like this, I find that we get the complaint that, oh, this is only for the factions, or oh, noobs can't get this, or oh, blah blah blah. Especially when we hide, like, important and fun content behind walls like that, then, I feel we get a lot of complaints about that instead. And, there's something to be said for those complaints as well. So I'm not really sure how that actually shakes out in the end. ST Sval says, when you fix border stands so we could buy any item. Can't you buy any item?
Yeah, can't you buy any item already?
What items are you having problems with, sir?
But I mean, if you consider the idea of introducing like deserts and Arctics, that would surely give more ideas for differentiation. So to speak.
Yes, because of the radically different nature of those.
Yeah, exactly. It makes it easier to think about differentiating them.
I suppose, but like, I mean, you can if you want to give a terrain a unique thing that's good, then you can certainly do that. I mean,
yeah, but perhaps what I wanted to arrive at is that it could perhaps be a good idea to just take all the current terrains that we have and categorize them into like 3 or 4 broad categories, and try to make those categories more distinct.
Presumably, I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind. I think. I mean, we've obviously talked a lot about random generation and random generation from various forms of noise functions and stuff, and generally I think that more layers of differentiation are good. Like the more.
Yeah, but that could be one. I mean, that would kind of correspond to having deserts and Arctics, just in a less appalling way.
Sure.
Just not having to have deserts.
Sure, I don't mind that at all. Like, we could do that. I'm just not like, I mean, it's a lot of work, like categorizing them and trying to decide what goes where, and I also think that there's a case to be made, like, okay, so Okay, so like let's say each terrain has a curiosity. Then the curiosities at some point they become kind of replaceable, and I think this is one of the problems with like adding, good and supposedly unique content to various terrains is that even if it is good and kind of unique, it quickly becomes replaceable. Simply by the by virtue of operating along the relatively few dimensions of
definitely you certainly have a point, as you pointed out earlier, that it's difficult to make something unique to a terrain that really matters.
Yeah,
because then it has to be extremely unique and have its own kind of lines of industry spawning from it and so on and so forth.
Exactly.
I mean, that would certainly be a good thing, but yeah, it's kind of difficult to do that, especially when. I mean, I guess it feels like when few people are actually benefiting from it, it feels kind of like wasted work.
A little bit.
But that is
obviously a sentiment
that we should watch out for, so to speak.
Yeah, not necessarily. Like I think, for example, adding the giant snails to the caves was a fun thing.
Yeah, certainly, but that's exactly the kind of thing that doesn't really matter. It's a unique thing, but it's not like it's whole game in terms of industry.
No, sure, sure, no, of course not. But that is precisely the point, also, that it shouldn't be. Right? Like no one wants the entire game to be locked in behind one resource that you can only get from one and only.
No, of course, but I think. I mean, I realize it's a lot of work, but if there's anything I would want, it would rather be 5 or 6 different games locked behind different walls, where anyone has access to at least 1 or 2 of them.
Sure, I mean that's a wonderful ambition right there.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but I wouldn't mind that. Like I wouldn't mind like adding. We've talked about that before as well. I wouldn't mind like having a system of call it what you will, like cultural differentiation based on like the terrain that you're exploring and whatnot. So like say that there were not one type of smelter, but like 5 different smelter types, and they all vary slightly in terms of how many ore pieces they take, how what kind of quality, what materials they're built from, what qualities they use or how they use them, blah, blah. They vary along several, small but nevertheless, presumably important dimensions. I think that could be fun. Again, it's just a lot of work, or it's a fair amount of work. Like I'm not.
It's. I mean, yeah, but there is certainly a case to be made that it's the kind of thing that is difficult to implement with 2 people.
It's hard. It's a little bit hard to motivate. Like, okay, let's add 2 new smelter types. It's like we already.
It's also kind of difficult to differentiate them meaningfully.
I think we could do a lot more.
Yeah, sure, certainly. I don't deny that.
I think just merely changing the inputs for how you build them changes the quality dynamics of it a fair amount.
Yeah, that's certainly true.
So I don't think that's necessarily. But and also what was I thinking? Must have been important since I forgot it.
Yeah.
There was the best idea I've ever had. Yeah. So there was that, I guess. Official Ramsey says, "Can you make mountains dangerous and difficult to climb?"
That's so unfair, though, that you just put flowers on one grave and not the other.
I liked one of the guys. The other one didn't speak to me.
But both are just people.
That is true. We're all equal.
Yeah. Yeah, dangerous mountains should be a thing.
Yeah.
Not sure how, but they should be.
I also the mechanics from Zelda: A Link to the Past, where you have these snot balls falling down on you from the top of the mountain. I like that one.
Definitely, but in this game they would need to spawn from some specific place.
Yeah, that's true. Wee lad, says someone boating past. VDZXX says, rather than having biome-specific resources, there could be small rule differences depending on the terrain, particularly in construction. For example, caves having no decay makes a huge difference in playstyle. Same with how in Legacy some terrain types did not need plowing to pave. Stuff like that makes the different terrain feel very different.
In Legacy, that's true in this game too, isn't it?
I think most terrains need paving here.
I'm sure you can pave on grasslands.
I'm not sure, but I don't think so, no. I think you have to dig away the grass first.
Really?
I think so, I'm not sure.
But yeah, there's a case to be made, I guess. But that's a bit difficult to communicate is the problem.
That's true.
I mean that is definitely one of the problems we currently have, I think, and that was even worse in Legacy. That it's kind of difficult to communicate just the fact that you can build houses directly on grasslands, but not on woodlands, and you can not run on woodlands. I mean, everyone knows these things, but
here's a guy.
And I mean, there's a case to be made that it shouldn't necessarily have to be communicated either. I mean, it is supposed to be a game of discovery, not sure.
Adder1342 says spending time on a mountain should be dangerous from cold, wind, etc. I can only agree with that.
Yeah, I can only agree with that. I think
should be exposure damage.
Certainly true. Certainly true. I would also, however, like to see mountains being a bit more labyrinthine.
Yeah, I think it's just too easy to climb up on. You can it's basically just a stroll up on the top of it.
Yeah.
It's just a stroll,
and particularly if there was danger of exposure, them being more labyrinthine would certainly be dangerous in and of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. If you actually ran the risk of.
Which does raise kind of a different another question by the way. I mean, I think I mentioned even in the last stream that I'd kind of like to introduce the inability to hearth home from lower cave levels.
Yeah, we talk about that.
And this makes me wonder if that would not be a reasonable thing in mountains too.
Presumably. I think one of the problems that I have with that is that I get a lot of PMs about people being stuck in weird and strange places.
Yeah, I know, but isn't that part of the danger? That you're supposed to be able to get stuck.
Is that true for like bat caves as well? Like people get
but that's just because of bugs though in the climbing mechanic.
Bugs. Do you know what's up with that, by the way?
No, not exactly. It's so hard to reproduce, honestly. And particularly, I don't understand why some bat caves have passages that are completely blocked off by ridges. That's kind of a mystery to me. I've been over that code like 5 times and haven't been able to figure it out, and it's more or less impossible to try to reproduce in any reliable manner.
Couldn't you make a debug dump thing for the codes, where you can like produce debug information for a particular dungeon? Or
not with any ease, at least. I mean, much of the information is very dynamic. And yeah.
But yeah, what was this suggestion here? Official Ramsey says, can you make it so when going up tiles higher than you drain more stamina / energy?
Yes, I mean that should definitely be a thing. I mean I don't really know why we haven't done this already, but the current climbing implementation is still just placeholder from when we first added it.
That's true.
Not sure if it. Do you think it would be meaningful to reintroduce the various climbing modes from Salem?
I don't really remember how those worked. You could basically...
I'm pretty sure there was a trade-off between speed and safety.
Ja, just det. That is true. Så var det ju, för i helvete.
Ja, vad var det? That's how I recall it, at least.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily mind it. I
Perhaps it could be a trade-off between speed and stamina, though.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I don't really, like the random aspect of it too much, especially if you put it in relation to, combat situations and shit.
Yeah, especially, but that's exactly why we can make the trade-off.
Sure.
With stamina instead.
Sure.
And it's my understanding that stamina actually matters in combat.
Yeah. You could also make it so that you take. So that you don't actually fall and break every leg in your body, but that you take damage.
Yeah, sure, that's not necessarily
cutting yourself on jagged edges on the mountain.
Yeah, doing so deterministically, rather.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you could have a climbing mode where the character would normally not refuse to drop down from certain heights. but with Geronimo climbing mode, you would.
Yeah, I like how we're thinking, people. I like how we're thinking tonight. We're thinking in terms of wounds, damage.
Yes.
I like how we're thinking. I like where we're going with this. Damage from climbing. We'll make a note of that. It's a good thing that we and the players are on the same note.
Yeah, I know.
They enjoy the health system. We enjoy the health system. Everyone is happy. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm feeling too.
Zented69 says, going back to animal quality nodes, maybe make animals more likely to defend their territory the farther away from the center of the map they are. And maybe kingdoms and claims can act as deterrents to this. The longer they stick around and the bigger they are, make the outer edges of the map very dangerous with more rare animals and forageables and resources, like the darkness. Yeah, I'm not sure how to feel about that.
I mean, the problem, again, as I said previously, I think, is that if you have areas that are more dangerous and consequently involve higher rewards, then people will just settle there to get those rewards.
Yeah, that's true.
And
which was the thing in Salem, very much so. Like, people settled out in the darkness because that kept them safe from raiders and stuff.
yeah, but I don't mind that, though. I mean, they did still need to make a local civilization bubble for themselves.
That's true.
In order to not die.
Right, that, which was actually pretty cool. Like,
Yeah, that's actually one of the mechanics I like the best from Salem. I really, I mean, it did suck a bit to not have a day-night cycle in Salem, but I really did like the wilderness being dark.
Yeah. And impending.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. That was one of my favorite mechanics in Salem.
I can get behind that.
Especially when you had this small local civilization bubble out in the darkness, and you could visibly see the night falling around you as you walked out of it. I really enjoyed that.
Cool, yeah. Guff One Love says, change game engine. It's possible?
Isn't that a very good question, huh?
It's possible?
Well, I mean, arguably that's exactly what we're doing with the client rewrite.
Yeah. You would have to be more specific about your question. Why would this be desirable?
Exactly.
Why do we want to change the game engine? What do you mean by the game engine?
And what game engine are we even talking about, the client or the server?
Exactly.
I like when the dusks recolor the water like that.
Yep. Yeah, the dawns and the dusks are the best time.
Yeah, but not all of them recolor the water in that way.
Sure.
I like when it happens. It's just somewhat unique.
Would be cool to do a skybox, by the way, for their water reflection.
Yeah, definitely.
Something we've talked about fairly extensively is generating like a sky map box texture thing, call it what you will, with stars and moons and planets.
It is certainly retarded that the daylight sky still reflects in the water in the sky and during the nights.
Glowing night rivers.
That is particularly stupid. That being said, I have had it pointed out to me, however, that it does look good in the character creation room. It makes the starting pond look a bit magic.
That's true. Do you plan to add more magical, this is Nyasha FTA asking, add more magical folklore creatures which could be dangerous and kind of rare and appear only at night or full moon or whatever else?
Good question, I guess. Would you want to add werewolves?
No, we wouldn't want to add werewolves. Werewolves are basically furries. It's terrible, no. But
can't disagree with that.
No, I don't really. No, not werewolves, but I wouldn't be opposed to adding.
What would be a better example, though?
To adding more, like, more magical entities, more in line with the kind of admittedly loose and sketchy basic theme of the game, which is more like.
But I mean, obviously, there's.
I wouldn't mind like Rusalkas. I wouldn't mind Dome Boys. I wouldn't mind those kind of.
Yeah, definitely. I guess it would just have to be special somehow.
Yeah.
I mean, as we've said so often, it's no longer special if they're everywhere.
Yeah. One memer says, your base just got frickin' snailed, you idiot." I don't know what snailed means. Destroyed? Someone raided my base or what? Help yourself to all the noobish crap that I've assembled. Like, enjoy it, I suppose.
Indeed.
The magical animals would, or magical entities would have to still like feel kind of magical.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, arguably trolls are a bit like meat baggish as it is. I mean, yeah.
I think there would at least have to be something special about the times and places they spawn.
Yep. But I wouldn't mind, for example, drowned players having a chance to turn into assault.
No, certainly.
That could be cool.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, I guess there is a case to be made if that's what you meant, that trolls are currently being ground.
Yeah. They're a bit.
Yeah.
A bit too. That's quite a few ants on one hill. So 6.
Mm-hmm,
Asterisk says, tell Loftar to fix his IRC pings. I haven't harassed him in many moons.
Yeah, indeed. I guess that's the main reason for that is just because I have the IRC window on a separate workspace, and it has stopped notifying me of people typing.
There you go. Meltsu says, will we see other types of liquids from extraction press? Apples, berries, bushes, pears, honeycombs?
We would definitely like that, very definitely. I mean, the problem with that is just that drinks currently suck.
Yep, drinks suck and shouldn't work the way they work. Should work some other way. And it's a little bit unclear how exactly they should work. Because I don't like the current minigame where you have to spam drinks in order to reduce your satiations in retarded ways and keep like your every satiation bonus at 125% by cycling various liquids over and over again autistically.
It's completely retarded as it is right now. And before that it's fixed, there's no point in adding more drinks.
Not really, no. So I suppose that's the answer. Like we'd love to, but like I would, it's kind of a shame that we don't have mead, for example. But
yeah,
we
and
really
cider and alcohol, more alcoholic beverages in general, and
vodka.
Yeah. Well, I mean anything really. There are so many drinks that would be suitable for being in the game, but with no framework to put them in, it's kind of pointless.
Exactly. So that's the description of the problem that we have. We would like to have a better system for drinks, basically. So there's here. So official Ramsey says patrols in Valhalla. Yeah, I mean, adding NPC of mobs to Valhalla is that's certainly an idea. It's a controversial one, but it is an idea. How do you feel about mobs in Valhalla?
Not sure, honestly. I mean, to some extent, if you want to hunt mobs, why can't you just do it outside Valhalla?
That's true.
Is there any reason?
They could be more common in Valhalla without disrupting the game balance.
Sure, I guess, but I mean, let me put it like this, perhaps then. If there were trolls in Valhalla, would it really be sound that you have a safe space to practice your troll combat? Shouldn't trolls be kind of scary because you don't have experience with them? I mean, now of course everyone does, but
presumably. Trollix H&H says the study slime quest on the Scholar Credo does not work. This was included.
Study what?
Study slime. So he's doing Scholar and he got a quest to study cave slime, and apparently that didn't work.
That's so.
So that's a bug.
Let's see.
Bag right there. Coleytrack says Valhalla new PvE server. Laughing my ass off. Didn't really like that one. Yeah, let us get drunk. There should definitely be a drunk debuff.
Yeah, most definitely. There even was in Legacy.
Yep.
though it didn't do as much as.
It should be like a graphical effect. Everything should be wobbly and shit.
Yeah, that's one thing, of course. But there's also the case that that the character should stop doing what you ask him to.
Yeah, just walk in random directions and start cursing, taking a piss against the tree,
and taking a bath when there's a body of water nearby.
No, Manny 13. We do not have the drunk debuff from Legacy. That has not been re-implemented.
Mm-hmm. For the same reason, of course.
Yeah, along with a thorn in the foot, which has not been re-implemented as well.
Indeed.
And some other little things. Adder 1342 again. You've spoken about making death an important part of the game. Any new ideas about this? Not really.
Oh, really?
Isn't death already? Have I spoken about this? I don't really remember what I said. I don't remember from one day to the next what I said. Sprymatsu says, when you release the new game engine, will the game have to reset, aka server wipe?
No, not.
It will not have to reset. No. So,
I mean, if anything, if all goes well and as it should, you should basically notice no difference except hopefully performance.
Yeah, it shouldn't. That's the goal. It shouldn't change anything, basically. The rewrite, except performance. So, did you answer that, by the way? What kind of performance gains are you actually hoping to see?
Well, I have written extensively about it on the forum.
Right on. Could you give us the Reader's Digest?
Sure. I mean, what I've written there is that there are three main parts to performance. Partly the GPU work, the GPU bound performance. Partly the actual rendering code in the client. That is my code that is producing the render commands, and partly also the dispatching of those render commands to the graphics driver. And the rewrite does nothing at all about the GPU bound work.
Word up.
So if you're GPU bound, the rewrite will do nothing at all. That being said, I would like to point out the fact that the main reason I have thus far been reticent to add, graphical detail sliders is because I've felt that there are obvious optimizations that should be done prior to that. I mean, the client should run well before having options to turn down detail.
Sure.
And so with the rewrite, I would be much less reticent to add such detail sliders. That being said, I also feel that the basic rendering shouldn't be a problem on semi-modern GPUs either, but again, I'm not sure why, because as I've said multiple times, GPU profiling and all that shit is something I have not managed to get working. So I don't know why it is slow on certain GPUs. But that being said, what the rewrite primarily aims to address indeed, is the rendering work itself, which is what I at least experience to most commonly be the bottleneck, and that should pretty much be fixed with the rewrite, I believe. That's not entirely true. I mean, there are things that are inherent work, so to speak, like animating meshes, though there is the instancing of skeletal animations and that kind of stuff comes afterwards. But basically, the actual rendering work itself should be basically gone after this.
That's good.
Yes, and also as a part of that, rendering changes, like adding new objects as you walk by things, happens asynchronously. So it should also eliminate a lot of stutter in that. I mean, I myself experience very much, arguably the greatest problem in large villages is that every time you cross a view distance boundary and new things get added, that's a giant stutter.
Right.
And that should also be fixed by this.
That's good.
What it does not do directly is address the driver dispatch work,
right,
which is also a CPU thing. That I've never seen that being a bottleneck though, but it is possible that it is not far behind.
Right.
But that being said, the new rendering paradigm also opens for some new abilities to optimize that as well that I haven't really had previously. I've said it previously, but I have found that one of the major bottlenecks in driver dispatch is changing vertex arrays, vertex configurations.
Word of.
And in the new rendering paradigm, I will have more information to try and what's the term? Try and do multiple renderings from the same vertex configurations together, so as to amortize the cost of switching between them.
Yeah.
And also that leads into the idea of atlasing the vertex data.
Word up.
So as to minimize the number of switches altogether, which I think would be a rather big thing. All that being said, the ultimate solution to driver dispatch work is Vulkan.
There we go.
But it seems to me that there is still no implementation for Vulkan in Java, so that unfortunately has to wait.
Right on. Exactly.
But with Vulkan, CPU, I believe that CPU, the CPU part of the client should basically be a solved problem.
That's cool.
And that leaves just the GPU part of it, which is still a good question, quite simply.
That's cool. So basically, this is prerequisite work for other good things in the future, hopefully.
Yes, exactly. I mean, half of this rewrite project is abstracting the rendering interfaces so that Vulkan can be implemented as an alternative. Whereas the current rendering system is very intrinsically bound to OpenGL.
Whiskey Pete 420 says, "Say ultimate solution again with that hat on."
The Endlösung of client performance is certainly Vulkan.
Ist es nicht der Endlösung?
Sagt man die Endlösung?
Ich weiß nicht. Granger, was sagt man? Sagt man der oder die Endlösung?
He can't tell us because that would be illegal.
That's true. Wie sagt man das?
Lösung is indeed feminine.
There we go, you were right.
That's how you can tell that one of us has read German and not the other.
I've read German a lot. I've studied German.
But not as much.
Granger informs us that it is indeed die. Die Endlösung.
That being said, though, didn't I actually say the Endlösung?
I don't even know, man. I don't know.
Me neither.
Manny, there was a question here. Mescaline asked, "Are you planning to add more rare animals or creatures?" Nope, never adding another creature again. Never, especially not a rare creature. Certainly not. Yeah, I'm definitely. We're gonna add that more. Like we add more creatures continuously, and I enjoy making them. Like I thought the giant snail was a fun one, and I thought making it rare was also a fun thing to do, and I wouldn't mind more of that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And wolves, of course.
Yeah, I was just going to say that one thing that would be very generally nice to do would be rework the animal AI, though.
Yep. What would you like to do with the animal AI?
I think the one main thing I would like to do is to have them move around more in combat.
Right? Movement cambers.
Yeah, and also related to that, perhaps not having aggro be a command for the animal to come here and fight me.
What?
Just a thought.
You tripping now?
Yeah, I know, but it's just an idea. Because we did actually, mind you, fix that for the small animals in the New Haven. If you recall, in Legacy, they automatically fled if you aggroed them.
I know, and now they don't.
The new implementation does not.
Yeah, no, that.
I mean, generally, that's not the main project I have in mind with rewriting the animal AI, but it would definitely be nice if animals had more intelligent and varied interactions with players.
Arguably.
So to speak.
Arguably.
And I think that should somehow tie into Druidism, speaking of that subject again.
Sure.
But not sure exactly what though, but something like Druids being more in tune with nature and animals.
Word up. That would be cool.
I mean, it would of course suck if Druid was just the creed you have to get to hunt efficiently, because you can then fool animals.
Yeah, exactly. That would be kind of counterintuitive, I think.
Yeah.
It would ruin my immersion.
It would.
You have to get the animal friend.
The animal friend credo in order to be able to kill them efficiently. Not that it doesn't make sense, but.
Azrid Rose Online says, "Lol, what is that hat?" I'm not sure if he's referring to your hat or my hat.
I thought he was referring to the in-game straw hat and was completely confused, but yes, perhaps that is one of these.
Is that a dragon dildo on yours? Yes. That is indeed my dragon dildo. This is my opera theater mask thing.
Mask with a Q.
Yeah, exactly. Mask. It's a trade doctrine, pretty much.
Where did you get that again?
I got this at Drottningholm.
Yes, you have told me this indeed.
At the theater of Gustav III that they have there, which is I believe all of Drottningholm is a UNESCO World Heritage blah 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 site.
So it is.
I think it is. So I think it's like one of the best preserved royal castles ever. Blah, blah, blah. Something.
Speaking of fumbling, why don't you shift click to row?
Row your boat.
And also, why are you traveling in the direction of the chat window? Isn't that kind of inefficient?
This guy, he has it down to a T. This guy, it's his science.
I play this game like no one.
Exactly. You think you pro? This guy's pro. Mescaline says, add more strong animals that cannot be soloed. I can only agree and concur. That was kind of the idea behind mammoths, truth be told, and we made.
Not sure how that actually works out in practice, of course. But
I
mean, that's also a good question. I mean, shouldn't there be some point in character development where you can solo these animals? Or should there? I'm not sure, honestly.
Maybe not for all animals.
Nah, sure. And it would not make sense for mammoths to ever be soloable, arguably.
Pretty much not. Like bears, sure. Boars, maybe. Bears, kind of. H&H Granger says, next world generator with rivers only going downhill.
Rivers are already only going downhill. Well, I mean, in going downhill, you can argue that they're going uphill as well.
That's true.
but they are, technically speaking, only going downhill.
Yeah. Because, I mean, in real life, certainly you can have local dips to the curve.
I don't think you can have that.
Why not?
What will not flow upwards, except extremely locally when constrained and having momentum.
That would be my point. Isn't that like semi-common?
Well, I mean, normally it would just overflow at the lowest point and fill up until. I mean, perhaps the reason it doesn't look like they go downhill is because there's no graphical effect on their flow. And that should arguably be fixed, but I actually did attempt that at one time, but it was harder than I thought, actually.
Asrid Rose Online says, I'm glad Loftar is telling Jorb how to play. Most satisfying thing about this trip.
You know this guy.
He has the patience of an angel, this man.
Normally Jorg just gets mad at me when I point these things out, but since we're on the stream now, I thought I could take the opportunity.
Exactly, I'm on my best behavior. Normally I ass-rate him. Zented69 says, add extremely rare spawning animals like ogres that attack with siege actions and generally can only be attacked back with siege to get people more into Siege. Maybe they despawn after an hour unless aggroed back, so they don't just randomly decimate villages. I like the randomly decimate villages part.
I don't necessarily hate that idea. I mean, I do recall us discussing similar ideas in the earliest days of Legacy, for sure.
Yeah.
I do recall there was certainly an idea, a related idea, in the initial Civilization implementation of Legacy that I think I would kind of sort of like to re-implement. Like being the, it kept track of where people actually were.
Right on.
I mean, it kept separate track of where they lived and where they traveled.
Animals or people or what?
The civilization system.
Right on, okay. Alright, sure, okay.
And the idea was that in areas of high travel but low civilization, there would spawn like raiding teams of
Right.
mobs.
Sure, no, that could be cool. I mean, I think anything that increases the Daisy World feeling of the game could be good. I mean,
and it's an interesting idea to have creatures that siege your base. Not sure exactly what that actually means. I mean, does it also mean that if you just leave your base, you know, like for vacation for a month or something,
and the ogres come?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure that would be fun. but that ties into similar ideas we have been discussing too. That animals and other creatures should be more, how do you put it, proactive in terms of interaction with players. That the world forces itself on you.
I like things that force themselves on. No, sure. I think that's one of my problems sometimes with Haven, is that I've been on about this before, is that I sometimes feel like I lack an imperative for action. Like there's nothing really forcing me into acting. And I think like one of the examples that I've had was that I think the timer on the Mario levels is a very good, you know, design decision to add a timer. There's really no reason for it, but it gives you like an impetus for action, because it kind of forces you to move and complete the level, or otherwise you die.
Well, that is true. I think the even better example of it is the initial Goomba that just keeps marching towards you at the beginning of the level.
Even better, yeah, sure. Even better.
I recall an idea we discussed, obviously not in earnest, but just as an example of something which would do this if the world were filled with zombies that just kept marching towards you all the time.
Yeah. Mescaline says, any idea nerfing questing? Does questing need to be nerfed?
Well, yes, of course. The whole problem with questing is charisma, and therefore the whole problem with questing is food.
Yeah. So we suspect that the problem is food more so than questing.
Indeed.
Algorithm says, the only reason people want stat caps is they believe it will allow them to be competitive.
Yes, and this is our observation as well.
I can kind of get behind that.
That is our observation as well.
To some extent, at least.
Was that a mistletoe that you picked up on the beach?
Yep, that is exactly what it was. Drunken Jacob says, seasons, winter, when you can hunt only some animals and can't plant vegetables. Specific curious related to seasons. Yeah.
Can only say yes.
Yes. Word up would be really cool. It's actually like, when I did my write-up for, you know, my hopes and dreams for this year, most of those hopes and dreams have been dashed.
Indeed.
Seasons was one of the two main things that I mentioned, along with object-controlled objects. And I would still rate seasons up there. So,
indeed.
So seasons would be really fun, and I think it would do a lot of good for the game. I think
yes, definitely.
The game having a pace, like a heartbeat of, you know, spring, winter, summer, fall, would change it significantly, I feel. Because, like, for example, if the herbs were actually seasonal, where, you know, you can't get everything all the time, but you have like different play styles and different, you know, parts of the year, etc., that would be, I think, add a lot to the game, and it would also like give the game a sense of time passing, which I think it's kind of lacking right now.
Indeed.
where you log in and there's actually like different weather and different seasonality, depending on when you log in.
Indeed. I mean, that being said, there is of course a lot of graphical work that would have to go into that.
Sure, there's a lot of graphical work, but like anything we do is a lot of work. So and that is work that I wouldn't mind doing. I would be kind of eager to do that, I think.
Yeah, but it does raise some questions, particularly about the tree model, doesn't it? Sure. I mean, is it really sound to have 4 variants of every tree?
Probably not.
Perhaps it is. I don't know, but
probably not. But I think it's manageable. Like, I think ultimately, if you want to take trees to the next level, we're talking about some sort of generation of trees.
Yeah,
I mean, that would be the future.
Mm-hmm.
Barring that, I wouldn't be opposed to making winter, fall, spring versions for the trees. I think that could be. I mean, I've taken some steps to prepare for it. Like, my source files are somewhat ready for that.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be a lot of work, yes, but it's also not like so much work that. That I would be, apodictically opposed to it or completely opposed to it or whatever. So I wouldn't mind doing it. I would be excited, for just the graphical stuff of adding, like, some of the things that we did for Salem, like leaves falling from trees and stuff like that.
Yeah, certainly, but isn't there also a case to be made that there would need to be a winter variant of every object in the game?
Maybe. Thinking about snow falling on it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can take it as far as you want. Like you'd start somewhere. You'd start.
Sure.
You'd start by recoloring the basic terrain and the trees and stuff, and then you'd kind of work your way through it. If we want to add little snow meshes for everything, that could be done. Maybe, and I don't know how it should be done. Should it be done generically? Should we try to make a programmatic way to do it? Like, I mean, that could be discussed. I mean,
could possibly be done.
I mean, I wouldn't exclude per se that you could write an algorithm to place snow on objects.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the upward facing faces and shit.
Yeah.
So
perhaps that's perhaps imaginable.
So you can put as much and or as little time as you want into that project, I think.
And with some work, with some lighting work, perhaps the objects that haven't been adapted would at least adapt somewhat to the season too.
Yeah.
Ooh, a fishing net.
And someone has been using it.
That is a lot of fish.
Oh wow! Can't even get in. Wonder if it's
is that really a sound indication of the sound working of fishing nets?
Yeah, I don't mind. Like, this guy has obviously put a lot of work into it.
Yeah, but should there even be that much fish in the river?
I don't know how long he's been working on it.
True enough.
I mean, you can pull out as much, if not more, by fishing for like a couple of hours.
Yeah, certainly. I don't deny that. But nevertheless, should there be that much fish in the river?
I don't know. Maybe not.
I mean, if there's anything we really need to do, it would be nerf fishing, surely.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows that fishing is just way too good right now. Right? Am I right? No, that's not true. Axe Success, do you have any ideas about progress of Kingdom extra content? I think he wants like more stuff for Kingdoms or Realms.
I mean, that's a good question. I always find myself a bit torn generally when people suggest things that should be local to Kingdoms.
Sure. I have to admit that my mind is not usually thinking about Kingdom stuff.
That is true. That is
Mostly
definitely true also. But when I see
online.
suggestions on the forum that this should be a Kingdom thing, I am torn, to be sure.
Mescaline asks, no comment about botting. Like, what do you want? Like, we've been over this a million times. It is in the
we wanted to discuss it tonight.
Answered question. We discussed it a little bit earlier. We've been over botting so many times. I think our position on botting should be pretty clear.
Unless there is some specific botting question that you would like to ask.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a specific question, feel free to ask it. Like, we have we have differentiated views on botting. We understand why people bot. We're not necessarily enthusiastic about people botting.
Though, as said earlier tonight, it does kind of depend on what you're doing with it.
Yeah.
I don't hate every bot in the game.
No, not me neither. And there are some bots I hate more than others.
Yes.
And some bots ruin my immersion more than others. And
but again, to the greatest extent, people botting something is an indication of that mechanic being bad.
Often, at least.
Not always, admittedly, but very often.
Yeah. So usually botting is a sign of a problem and a solution to a problem. So that's some commentary on botting right there, sir. If you want more, you'll have to ask specific questions. Pretty much. Asterisk is on a little crusade against stat caps in the chat here. He's not enthusiastic about stat caps at all.
And neither am I. And I think that, I mean, unlike what some people seem to imagine, I would like to think that we proved that while we had stat caps.
Yeah.
I think it was commonly agreed that they kind of sucked in many ways.
Overlord Mervin says, what are your thoughts about credos incentivizing multiple alts and or suicide alts?
The suicide alt obviously sucks. We should remove that.
Yeah.
But the fact that it incentivizes having multiple characters, I mean, it should at least be said that having multiple characters is not necessarily the same as having alts.
No.
Depending on what you mean by alt, I guess. But to me, an alt means a cheap throwaway character that you just use for some specific purpose.
Yeah.
Having multiple mains is not a problem in my mind.
No, not in mine either. But I mean, I guess there's a lot to be said on it. Like, I think there are like two somewhat disjunct or opposite desires there. Like the desire to not incentivize alting for the sake of alting. Like, we don't add mechanics usually where you have to be 3 or 4 people to complete something, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that forces you, if you're a solo player playing, that forces you
to just have cheap throwaway alts
exactly,
that you don't
create
care about.
characters for that very specific purpose only.
Mm-hmm.
And to some extent that can be said about any meaningful character specialization, because
exactly.
there's another part of us, I think, that wants character specialization.
Exactly.
I want characters to feel unique, because that is
Exactly.
one of the things that do not that keep them from being throwaway, is that
Exactly.
they are unique and have unique properties, have properties that differentiate them from other characters, etc., etc.
Exactly.
So I think there, and I'm not sure there's like a magical silver bullet fix to that, that dilemma or that tension. Like, I think that kind of dialectic may be a part of the materialistic preconditions of scientific materialism leading the proletarian
Exactly.
masses to
Yes.
the revolution.
And finally, utopia.
And finally,
but I don't think. I mean, the suicide alt thing is obviously bad, but
Arguably.
I haven't really seen credos being horribly alt abused otherwise.
I don't.
Not
I
that
don't
I've
know
exactly
really.
followed it, but
I don't really know.
it's
actually.
not an impression that I've.
It's not my impression as well, but I think maybe the reason that they haven't been is that because it's so easy to suicide your way to all of the credos or whatever. Maybe that's
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that is the thing. And I have seen more than one character actually do that, and that obviously sucks.
And my point there would be that I don't mind that you get a little bit of a bonus in some sense, or in some along some dimension of measurement from dying. I think that could be, and someone asked about this earlier as well, so consider this an answer to that question as well. But I don't mind if there are like benefits to dying, but I think the problem with you know, how credos incentivize death right now is that they incentivize you to not go and die once and come back somewhat stronger in some dimension of your character, but rather they incentivize you to go and kill yourself over and over and over again until you have driven the quest count down to 0 and then start playing again. And that, I think, is retarded. Like, let's say that you could meaningfully start playing again with some slight edge from dying or whatever.
I mean, it should be said, of course, that and that point was brought up earlier on in the chat, how we feel about dying being a meaningful mechanic.
Exactly.
And it was, of course, the intention of this mechanic to make dying more meaningful.
That was the guy I meant. Considered.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. But nevertheless.
Yes. Most certainly.
And exactly how that plays out is a good question, I guess. I mean, you also get stronger from the, at least technically speaking, get stronger from the ancestral prayers too.
Yeah.
And that has seemingly not been considered as...
No, but there you're punished from dying repeatedly, because that pushes your best ancestors back in the line of ancestry. Yeah. So,
I mean, perhaps there could be a case to be made even for perhaps even retaining the current death mechanic for credos, only that you lose one credo every time you die.
That could be interesting. Something like that could be interesting. Yeah. Alright, so we're coming up on the almost 2-hour mark, and official Ramsey is actually asking how much longer is the stream, and I would say about 5 minutes. That would bring us to 2 hours. So if you have any final questions that you'd like to have answered, or final comments that you, thoughts, wishes, desires, etc., etc. I think I'm gonna make life easy on myself. Maybe, do we want to push this hat now, or do we want to wait until the next patch?
Well, I mean, it is a Halloween patch. Hat.
So we should push it now.
Arguably.
Sure. So let me just commit it then. Start working on that. If you have any final questions, thoughts, etc., feel free to ask them, and you shall receive. So, who should get this hat?
History says that gold and silver subscribers should get it.
That sounds good to me. Okay, so gold and silver subscribers it is. I pushed the hat, so.
Okay. I guess that means I should shut down the server.
Sounds good. Halloween Derby. It's
Derby, you say?
Internet informs me. Let's sell it for $1.05. For being generous to me. Let's try that out. What's the song? Spooky, scary skeletons. What are they doing?
Oh, that I can't recall at all.
Spooky, scary skeletons.
Are they even something?
I think they are something. What are the spooky, scary skeletons doing, y'all?
Bring back personal beliefs. I would like to state here that in my mind, credos are our modern version of personal beliefs.
Sure, they are at least, you know, an aspect of it. I think there could still be room for some.
Yeah, I mean, sure, there can be other specialization.
Yeah. Lyrics. Send shivers down your spine. That's true. Spooky, scary Halloween nights send shivers down your spine. There we go. Let's see. Remember to add it to the store. That's what we're doing right now. Boom. So here we have it. By the way, if you want it, there you go. You can check it out. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool Halloween hat right there. Little bat wings and shit. And get yours while supplies last. You can get a little in-game look at it. Merp, merp, merp. Pretty cool beans. Hanark says, for Halloween and to thank you, your stream, I will buy stuff on the shop. Much obliged.
Thank you.
Much obliged. So how are we doing on the restart there?
It's just coming down now.
Kilter Lens says, when will the new world? The new world? You're assuming there will be a new world. We have no comment on the white question. Drunken Jacob, H&H Granger says, please show us a professional beehive raid. Not on this character. But, oh, okay, why not? Let's raid a beehive. Y'all. Oh, right, the server's down. We're not going to raid a beehive.
Well, you can do it on the dev server.
But that's not as fun. That's much fun. Blood Phoenix 08 says, make Credo quests a set amount, please.
A set amount?
He wants a set amount of quests to complete per Credo.
But why?
I don't know. Because he wants it to be easier, not scale as brutally, I think.
But that would defeat the whole point of them.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to feel about that. Like I could agree that the grind increase is a bit taxing at some point.
Yeah, but isn't that exactly the point that you shouldn't be getting all of
Sure,
them?
but like at the same time, there is room for discussing the scale, right? Like one could debate about.
Yeah,
how
sure. Yeah,
brutal
sure,
it is.
sure. That there is, but that is a completely different thing from making them not scale.
Sure, of course. Like, and you could see his point of view being an extreme of the more general discussion that can legitimately be had. Okay, so he wants a scale.
Yes, but I would like to point out here that quantitative changes surely a change into qualitative changes as.
The dialectic, of course.
Yes, indeed.
Oui, c'est la dialectique.
Yeah, that's it.
Do we have the server up and running anytime soon?
Almost.
Let me know when the server is up. Sea of Skulls says, add ocean so I can be a pirate, please, and thanks. That's not a bad idea.
What? Yeah.
It says, add oceans so I can be a pirate, please.
Yes, I would like oceans. I mean, there are degrees to it. There have often been suggested that there should be an island map, and I disagree with that. But there should definitely be oceans.
Yep.
But there are slight problems with actually the service running in, by the way. But there are. It is not trivial to implement for some reasons, for various reasons. Not the least of which being the whole issue of oceans basically being blue deserts, as you have pointed out in the past.
So the Halloween Derby is live in the store. Server's back up. Here we go. It's a mere five bucks, a mere trifling for the value that you're getting. So with that, I think happy Halloween and thank you for the stream and thank you Loftar for being on and taking time to be on. Hope to have you on again soon. Maybe for
the freak show, I guess.
For the December stream, we could have you on. We'll wear Santa hats and sing carols. It could be fun. Yeah,
that would certainly be something I could relate to more than Halloween.
Exactly. Christmas is a good, honest, decent
holiday.
Wholesome holiday. Exactly. So, muchas gracias, señores y señoritas. Thank you for watching us tonight. Thank you for being here. Thank you for talking to us and caring about our game and generally just being
awesome people that you all are. Any final
Not
thoughts, Loftar?
No, that exactly. Thank you for caring about our meaningless little project.
Absolutely, and also, yeah, real shame that that we lost ONEP. I think that deserves a comment.
It does.
The both of us. I think just what we've said on the forums before times 100. Like all our condolences to everyone who knew and played with ONEP. We really, it was really somewhat surreal for me. It was the first time like a player that I really like knew and related to.
Well, I never knew ONEP.
I can't say that I knew him, but like I knew him as a player of Haven at least. He spammed me with personal messages and stuff. And, I knew of him at least.
Yes, it is.
It's a real shame.
It is.
Until we meet again, everyone. Take care. Have a good Halloween. Happy Halloween. Trick or treat. We gave you a real treat tonight, I hope. Take care. There will be a patch Monday, I hope. So stay tuned for that. Until next time, kids. Take care.